This meeting is being recorded.
One of the things that I want to remind you all that some of you have already taken care of it, but I just want to put this out there for those that may not have. The fee for this class is $125. $50 of it is a non-refundable registration fee. That just covers the basic cost of us certifying a class with the Centers for Spiritual Living and making that commitment to them. That $50 goes directly to the Centers for Spiritual Living for each person that's in the room. The other balance of that comes to Elder Pride, and this is a part of what we do. And it's easy to do it at the same page that you zoomed in. If you want to go and hit that donate button and make your donation for either the $125, the $50, or if you make it the $50, then over the next 6 weeks, we ask that you make a donation of $15 a week until you've met the full commitment of the $125. So that is out there. In your workbooks, each of you will have a student workbook. And if you've not downloaded the student workbook, it is available to you on the website. Right under, there's a little icon that has a little document that leads you right to the PDF document for the workbook. You can download it there and have it available for you as well. Once I turn it over to Diana and to Bonnie, you'll learn more about the books that are required for this class. And we know and acknowledge that, if you're just showing up for right now for the first time, you probably don't have the book. And so we'll be talking about that and we'll be working that out as well. But with that, I want to turn it over and introduce two people to you that are going to be our guest facilitators for this class. The first person that I want to speak of and introduce you to is a practitioner that is beloved within the Centers for Spiritual Living community and has been such a tremendous ally to me and all that I've done, and I'm sure that Betty will agree with me, and that is practitioner Bonnie Allen. Bonnie Allen is the matriarch of practitioners for Northern California, a wise soul who has taught many of the classes in many of the ways, and she's supported me whether I'm at Heart and Soul Center of Light, whether I'm at Central Valley Center for Spiritual Living, or with Elder Pride. She's always been right there. What more can we do? How can I help? How can I show up? And so, Bonnie, I want to thank you for being willing to be a partner. And as the elder practitioner in the room, I ask your permission to carry forth and do this thing called teaching this philosophy of science of mind, this faith, this way of living of what we do. So do we have your blessing?
I approve.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie. And the other guest facilitator, I don't have to ask permission as an elder because she's younger than me. Diana Smith, again, a practitioner when we started Elder Pride that came to me and said, what more can I do? What can I offer up? What can we share? What can we talk about? She gives such good counsel. She gives such good sharing. We launched Elder Pride in February of 2020. Yes, that's right, February 2020. And she was one of our first guest speakers. She did a stage talk. She participated. And, it was just, one of my favorite photos from that launch of Elder Pride is Diana in an embrace with one of the other participants in the class. And every time I see that photo, it's like, yes, that's exactly what my vision was for Elder Pride. And so Diana is going to be one of our facilitators. And Diana, thank you for being a part of this evening. And then I have with Elder Pride, there are two other practitioners in the room. And they happen to simultaneously and at the same time, as we say, be the co-presidents of Elder Pride. And that's Janis Richman and Betty Harris. Betty Harris is the reason why I am in Fresno. I found a home that I didn't know that I was looking for. And I found a dear friend that is someone that I have felt like I have always known. And so any opportunity that I have to be with Betty is just a gift. And Betty is our practitioner lead, if you will, for us here at Elder Pride. And so Betty, thank you for being there. And then my, what is the term, ride or die kind of comment. Janis is the one that I can call 3 in the morning and say, bring a shovel. And, you know, it's certainly, she is my personal practitioner. She is who I go to when I need and want to call a practitioner. And she is just such a blessing to be playing with and to be a part of it. And so that's the staff, if you will. That's the leadership of who's in the room right now. But I know that Diana and Bonnie have a way and a format and a question that they want to ask you all about who you are and your intention. So Diana, I'm going to turn it over to you to welcome the group.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have all of you. As I sit here with the Hollywood Squares, it's so lovely that on the peripheral and on my screen, we're surrounded by the people who are here to support the students. And so all of you are in the middle of the circle. And that's what I really want to bring to you, is that you're in the middle. You have answered a call and you've said yes for whatever reason. And we're going to ask you that, you know, what brought you here? And what do you want to leave with by, you know, devoting these 8 weeks and study and, you know, your time and your consciousness to yourself as well as the planet? What do you want to bring? So I'm grateful to be here once again. Bonnie and I taught this class several years ago. It was the fall of 2016. And we thought it was a great idea. It hadn't been offered for a long time. And little did we know that the world was starting to turn in an upside down kind of way. And the elections had happened. And we were in the course at the time. And so we all got to really be with ourselves in a profound way about our own consciousness of what was happening in the 2016 election. And how would we move forward? And as a result, this class was just amazing. And I do believe that we've all been called here for the next 8 weeks or so, and that the work that we're up to is going to be reverberating out in the world. There's no doubt in my mind, having had the experience before, to see what transformation happened and how the world became. I know that with your studies and with what you're bringing, it will be an amazing experience. So we're going to do a little introduction, and Bonnie, feel free to pop in at any time, because I yield to Bonnie. Bonnie was my teacher when I was in practitioner training in Oakland Center. I was at another center. I needed a roots class. And so 3 of us from the center I was at in Mill Valley, or in Corte Madera, we came over to Oakland. And Bonnie and Richard, whom I can't remember his last name, held court for, I don't know, 40 or 50 of us. It was an amazing big class. And I fell in love with the consciousness that Bonnie brings to the table and to every place. I mean, she is just an amazing practitioner, an amazing woman, a woman that has stories that will sit with you and inform you in other parts of your life that you can draw on. So, you know, I'm delighted anytime I can show up in the room with Bonnie, and underneath the wonderful wide wings that she has, I'm grateful. So what we're going to do is go around and ask you all, and you know, I'm going to ask Bonnie to model first. You know, what brought you here? Who are you? What brought you to Science of Mind? And what brought you here in this moment? And what do you want your takeaway to be? And you'll be looking at this more deeply because the curriculum asks you to do that, but just from your heart. There's no right or wrong answers. And Bonnie, is this the time I should ask the question as well? Or we, okay, all right.
Do this first.
All right, so I will have Bonnie.
Right, introduce myself.
Yeah, be sure to use your projection voice, Bonnie.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
I first was introduced to Science of Mind with a poster. And it was a poster around someone that I was very interested in. And I came to Oakland Center. And as I got there, I looked around and looked at the bulletin board and looked at things that were going on. And I was like, whoa, what is this place? And the minute that I really got more involved, I'd found home. Now, not untypical of a lot of people that come in, I came in with all my criticism. I read Holmes. I thought somebody needed to get an editor for him. Let's get some bullet points going here. This is just way too whatever. And, you know, within that first year, I started practitioner training. I've now been a practitioner for 20 years, and I wouldn't change a word, not one word of the Science of Mind text. But that's because I understand that it's not about criticism. It's about understanding that truth is truth. So when you find the truth, you find it in yourself. You don't find it in somebody else. And part of the thing I enjoyed so much about Holmes was that he was just a Joe Blow. He was not an academician. He was not a theologian. He was a butcher. And through his interest and passion for understanding what it is that this whole thing called life is all about, he not only studied so many people, but he studied himself. And in the process, that came from a small group of people to thousands of people. And if he can do it, we all can do it, if you know what I mean. It's like, this is our journey. This isn't Ernest Holmes' journey. This isn't somebody else's journey. This is our own journey. So I welcome you, and I'm really excited to get started. So who's going to introduce themselves next?
Janis.
Okay. I don't know if I've told you the story about how I became a practitioner, but Bonnie was my practitioner for a couple of years, maybe more than a couple of years, and I was taking every class. And I kept saying to her, I don't know if I'm going to be a practitioner. I just wanted to make sure that I'm making an informed decision. So I took all of the classes, and I think I was short one class, and I was in the middle of taking the Course in Miracles, which was at Koshka's house. And it was in November, and I had just had a session with Bonnie the night before and said, I made up my mind. I'm not going to be a practitioner. I said, I've taken classes. It's clear to me, I'm not going to do it. And then the next day I went to the Course in Miracles group that we had. We were a group that met for about 2 years. That night, Reverend Andriette came to the session and announced that she was starting Heart and Soul. And Deb Kersey and Gabriela Gutierrez at the time stood up and said, and we're going to go through, we're going to be the first practitioners at Heart and Soul. And then they turned to me and they said, and you're coming with us. And I went, oh. I said, well, I really can't, I don't think, because it starts in January and I don't have a class and all that. And then Reverend Andriette said, let me see what I can do. And she created a 2-weekend workshop for me to get through the class so that I could start. So my calling was definitely called. I was taken. It was something that as soon as they said, you're coming with us, I knew, but that's it. And I never looked back. And I am so grateful that I did that. And so where I am today, and one of the reasons I want to take this class is, of course, to support Elder Pride and to support myself. But I also feel that the work that I'm doing, there's a larger calling for me, and I don't know how to get there. And I feel like this is a way for me to open up the portal to what's next for me. I work with people, I give to people, but I feel that there's just more for me. And so I'm here to find what's mine to do. And I'm complete.
Thank you, Janis. Who's next?
Joel.
Joel.
I needed to unmute myself. As the question was posed, I was trying to come up with a way of describing succinctly what brought me here and how I could say in few words, my own personal history that brought me here. I guess the simplest is that it was an invitation of Janis, who we reconnected. For me, it was, I reached out to her because I was interested in opening up and participating in a larger field of participation consciousness. And so I reached out to her as a potential ally and collaborator. And she introduced me to this group. And when I read through the intent of the class or workshop, there was a stirring in the back of my head. It's like, oh, I've felt this before, and I tried it, and I will admit that I have become discouraged, and I don't know if I want to use the word jaded, but I had become discouraged. And her invitation was kind of like holding out a hand, like we do in dance, Janis. And do I accept the invitation? Do I accept the dance? Do I accept whatever movement? Janis and I do a lot of improvisational dance. So between the two of us, we create a dance. We create movement, create music, we create love and energy. And so I see this as an opportunity. You folks have actually extended your hands, and I'm willing to try again and to see where it goes. I don't know if this creates enough of a context or understanding of where I'm from, but I hope, as I say this, I thought, wow, that dance analogy is probably the best way I could put it. So I hope that as the weeks go through, that you get a better picture of where I'm coming from and where I want to go.
I just want to thank you for that, because it was so genuine and so from the heart that, you're right there in the portal, and welcome.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Joel.
I think I'll go.
Yay, Avery.
It's funny, I was listening to everybody speak, and outside of being in practitioner training, when I got here because of Reverend Jack, and I got here because I think I was wandering for a long time. I had had a bad accident, and I had gotten some money from it. I was in school for yet another degree, which I got, and I was just traveling. because I didn't know what else to do. I lost my business because of the accident. I had my own fitness business. I lost the business and I didn't know what else to do. So I just kept moving. And then when I met Reverend Jack, he introduced me to this. And I fell in love right away. It was like love at first sight. You can't call it anything else. I met some of the greatest people that I'll probably ever meet in my life. And when he suggested that I try becoming a practitioner, I didn't have to think about it. It wasn't a second thought. There's a lot of work because I was already doing a lot of work, but I didn't mind the work. And some of the classes that we had already taken, it was a no-brainer. I've been doing yoga for years, and that's when I discovered my own spirituality, and then I became a yoga instructor and I started teaching. And what you find when you start teaching yoga is that you dive in more and more, but there's more for you to learn. You just don't know where to learn it. And I think I started learning that here, how to keep that flow going. And that's why I'm here. Basically why I'm here. And it's funny because I isolate easily. I'm an introvert, but I can't do that here. And I don't want to do that here. And for me to say that's a big deal. It's a huge deal because I can sit here all night and not say one word, but you can't do that. I can't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Avery.
Thanks, Avery.
Who's next?
Well, I will take I will go.
Okie dokie.
I think when I discovered Science of Mind, I felt like I had found my home. And one of the things that I wanted to do was understand that God is love, because that was what I felt from my heart as the truth growing up. But I was in a Christian home, and there were there were things that didn't agree with God as love. And so I wanted to study more about Ernest Holmes, how he got to his thinking about putting all of the religious or making it into a succinct understanding what all religions purport to do. And I just wanted to take courses and learn more and expand my consciousness and I still want to do that. If Christ is correct, and I think he is, each of us is the light of the world. And this world needs some light, folks. We got to bring it in.
That's right. Well, while we're there in the room, Sue, what brings you out tonight? What is your intention for this class?
My intention is just to listen and draw it in.
Okay. Well, you are our cheerleader and our recipient of love. So I want to lift you up and say thank you for always being willing to show up and to be here and to just, God is your smile. And I so appreciate it every time I see it.
Thank you.
I'll go next, only because I need this class right now. And I have often said in my life, don't use the word need, but I have really taken a look at, in some of the teases that I have offered for other folks to learn about our class. So, I talk about things. Are you willing to let go of procrastination? Are you willing to let go of, preconceived I can'ts? And I have really, looked at, it's kind of like my fault that the pandemic isn't over yet, And the reason why I want to say that is back when we all decided to shelter in place, like in March of 2020, I thought, oh, this is going to be the perfect time for me to finish my book. Not a play, but a book that is an autobiography, if you will, of my spiritual path as an openly gay man and kind of the experiences that I've had and I've shared. And I have now for 104 weeks procrastinated and not written anymore from what I started. That first weekend, 25 pages right out the door, one continuous moment from a Friday evening through a Sunday afternoon. And it's really shown me that, no regrets. I absolutely get that, I have been called, I have been nudged to do the work of Elder Pride, the work of the work of Heart and Soul, the work of Central Valley Center for Spiritual Living. It's like I have my vocation, I have my spiritual calling, and I'm reclaiming, as Maxine Waters would say, I'm reclaiming my time. I'm reclaiming my time because I also know that my ministry has another vehicle to communicate, and that's through my storytelling. And so it's like, this is my nudge to get that together and to do that. I first became aware of Science of Mind in 1982 when a friend of mine, not unlike what Janis said to Joel tonight, was taking a class at the Cathedral Hill Hotel in San Francisco called Mastery in Living One, which to many people looked very much like Foundations class, with Terry Whitaker Ministries. And my friend Gary looked at me and said, I want to do this, and I don't want to do this without you. I want you to be with me on my spiritual journey. And we went into a room that had 400 people in the room, and there were 2 empty chairs right next to this beautiful, young, vibrant Black woman who introduced herself to me as Andrea Earl. And the 3 of us for the next 10 years were just absolute running companions and on this spiritual journey together, taking as many classes as we can. Gary made his transition in 92, but Reverend Andriette and I have carried on. And I loved the idea of the Science of Mind because it brought together the teachings, theology, psychology, all in one place. And I love that. And I'm complete. Thank you.
Andrea.
I guess that leaves me. So
Well, it doesn't leave you. It's we've saved the best for last.
Oh, of course, of course. Yes. So I dabbled. I came from Christian background, and I dabbled with Science of Mind many, many years ago. I think that my introduction was Terry Whitaker when she was on television on Sunday morning for a half an hour, and I wouldn't miss that show. So I was fascinated with it. And then I started going to East Bay when it was on MacArthur Boulevard in Oakland, in that little center there. And I think it was called Beyond Borg Center or something or other there on next to the bank. And I only went for the singing. So I would go and slip in and hear them singing, and I'd slip out after they were finished and go elsewhere. And then dabbled some more in that, and then joined First Church when it was called First Church. I think it's called something different now. And joined First Church and was fascinated by the teaching, and then kind of moved away from that and came down to East Bay, joined the choir, loved all of that. And then left for a time and then wound up at Heart and Soul. And what kept me coming back to Heart and Soul was just the heart of the people, just coming in and just being embraced every Sunday morning, the hugs and the love and stuff. And that drew me in. And then the teaching was absolutely fascinating and wonderful. And so then I wanted to do and be more. And so Elder Pride has come along, and the things that are going along with that. And also in between all of this, became an ordained minister, not in Science of Mind, but in all faiths. in New York. And just one thing leading to another, And my goal is just to have more peace and just be, as we were talking about Avery and Benny and I earlier, just being more of a light and bringing more peace and intending to shift the world just one more degree by just being and just moving in that. And more peace for myself as well. Like you, Reverend Jack, I decided that this was going to be a time of a hiatus and I was going to learn Spanish. So, and I was going to be fluent in Spanish. These 2 years, I haven't touched one of the lessons. I bought the Pilsner, I think it is, or something or other, and I bought several other courses, and I was going to learn how to paint and draw and do all kinds of things and tear up the world and write a book. And here we are. So,
so we have to let that go because there's people on this planet are ready to be done with this COVID-19 thing.
Life is good. Probably do more when I'm out in the world than I have been doing being sequestered in here by myself. So letting it go and just glad to be here. I'm just looking for more and bigger and better, more expansion of me and more awareness and embracing of who God is within me.
Thank you, my dear.
Well, thank you, everybody, for.
Well, Diana, we want to hear from you. You did now. You have to share your story too.
Oh,
You can't
yeah,
just play facilitator and scoot on by and go, no, not me.
Well, I was really intent in listening to each of you, and it, brought me back to how I was introduced. And 35 years ago, I decided to not bog my brain up with drugs or alcohol anymore. And that was an opening. And I really believe that the 10 years that I did that was my anger at my being kicked out of a church that I gave my heart and soul to as a child. And it was evangelical. And because they thought I might be gay and that I was smoking cigarettes, that I was asked to exit and go out into the world that they told us to stay away from. And so that was punishment. But, I was out in the world doing what I could do, but I needed to fortify it with drugs and alcohol. But at 35 or at age 30, I decided, I can't keep going like this. And I got sober and I was introduced by somebody to the Unity Bank, and I would do my quarter every morning. I would meditate, and they said that's what you needed to do. And I put the quarter in. At the end of the 30 days, I was a different person. And I started going to Unity. And then I was in Reno. I had left the Bay Area, went back up to Reno, and I had a healing and wellness center. And one of my clients came in, and I knew she was a practitioner with Science of Mind, and I was a little familiar with it only because I'd been receiving their magazines. And she said, we're going to start a church, and we'd like to invite people who might be wanting to be founder members. And would you come to a meeting? And I walked into that meeting, and it was like, oh my God. And it was a group of mixed people, but the minister that they were calling in and a few of the people that wanted to do it were gay. And I was like, oh my God, I'm home. I'm with my folks. So, that's, I helped start Circle's Edge that is not in existence anymore, but it was a good community, and it was with RSL, or RSI, I guess is what we called it, Religious Science International. And then I moved down to the Bay Area, and Karen Drucker has been somebody that's been in my life for music, that somebody said, do you know Karen Drucker is going to show up at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living? I was there, and I, like Bonnie and other people have said, I knew I was home. And I started finishing up the classes, needed their roots class, took it, became really involved in the, we didn't call it a board of trustees, but a core council, where I started out as secretary and ended up being the pres for a couple of years. And I really got to understand a lot of the inner and outer workings that I was going to have to the ministry. But I decided as a result of doing that, I really wanted to be just a practitioner. I didn't want to take on the ministerial role, because that's what I knew best. And then I wanted to be engaged in diversity. And one of my friends who was a practitioner and minister at Golden Gate said, you know, there's this woman, I think you're going to like her. And so on Pride weekend in 2014, I came over to Oakland and walked into the rooms of Heart and Soul, and I knew I was home. And for the next 7 years, that's where I was. And I taught, and I was with a great group of practitioners, got to do things that I hadn't in my old community. And the building the healing consciousness was a pivotal place, because I think before I was in the classes to tick off the boxes, of course I was being changed, but there was something about that course that really altered how I was going to interact in the world, and to watch the miracles that took place was just profound. And, you know, I took a leap not too long ago to another community, because I wanted to take this out in the world larger than perhaps I might have been able to do, be it yoga, be it working with elderly, be it, you know, being involved in Elder Pride, being involved in my group that I'm involved in Egypt or in India. You know, I wanted it to be bigger than 4 walls. So I am a member of the God at Play community. And so, and I'm loving this, Jack, that you remembered that I reached out in 2020 and said, let me be a part of this. And we had this great conversation October about this class, and it was like, I've been looking forward ever since. And, you know, and so I know that Spirit's been in preparation. I mean, it's been working me. And, you know, Bonnie and I and Jack have met, and we've been talking about, you know, when you say yes, the universe says yes back. And so I'm forewarning with a watch out for the miracles, because it is going to be amazing. And with that, I'm going to
take it back from you for just a moment. And
Okay.
then that was so funny. I had my cursor all lined up here to share my screen. Thank you all for your shares, from coming from the heart. It's just really touching. Okay, come on now. All right, so this is the kind of the official welcome screen here. Just a reminder that the dates are here. I'll show you where this is posted later when you can see it. Kind of our agenda for tonight is to welcome one another, to meet one another, to meet this community that you are a part of. And I also wanted to let you know that you're all registered. So we've got that information. And I think I have all the information that I need. We talked about the fees, but the next thing that I want to talk about, and I'll show you in just a moment, is Slack. And Slack is one of the ways that we're going to use as an opportunity to communicate with one another. And what I want to offer as an idea is, don't be afraid. You know, don't be afraid. We'll get through it. It is part of the pandemic that we're in. It's a part of how we'll communicate with one another when we need to. So we'll get there. In a little bit, Diana is going to go over the course overview, and she'll go over the homework. I've lifted up here as an example. And again, you'll see this a little bit later in our presentation, the 2 books that you really need to have for this 8 weeks that we're together. And I know that for many of you, there's no way that you would probably already have the book. Many of you may already have the Science of Mind textbook. I suspect that you do, and yay. But the other book is The Power of Meditation that is highlighted here. And they will talk about it a little bit more. And you know, you'll want to go online and get it, you know, after the class if you don't have it. The Science of Mind book, if you don't have it. There's a couple Kindle versions out there that you could go grab. There's an audible version out there that you could grab if you wanted. So that's available too, whatever serves you. And again, if you're having that sensation of what it was when you were in college and the instructor said, these are the textbooks that you have and you must be able to do this reading, and that wants you to want to shut down and go, oh, I don't know that I want to do this. Be patient with it, because, be patient with it. And I will tell you, for someone that has read the Science of Mind textbook for the last 38 years, every time I read it, I see something different. And as even if I read the same paragraph, have the same understanding of it, be patient with yourself with that, because you will see, you will understand, and you will digest just exactly what it is that you're called to get this time in this moment. Okay. Oh, this is, and I just realized that I wasn't doing this in the best way fashion. Hold on just a moment. So this page is the page from Slack that you all will probably have received an email invitation to join Slack. And this is the Elder Pride channel. And on here, you will see what's highlighted in blue. It says BHC. This is specifically the channel that we were going to be using for this class. You will see it in here on this Slack page is, our little slide to welcome everyone, but the student workbook is also there if you're, don't have access to it. So if Slack is familiar to you, yay. If not, send me an email and I'll set a time where I will walk you through it over the phone, or we'll do a little Zoom meeting with just the two of us to kind of get through it. But this will be where you'll be posting documents or writings or comments to one another as we move through the next 8 weeks. All right, so Diana, I am going to turn it back over to you to talk a little bit about the twofold purpose of building a healing consciousness. Diana?
Let's see. I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Let's see if I can go. There we go. I'm still trying to navigate myself. And thank you for having this slide up there for us. And because I don't want to read it, because I know that you all can read, but we're going to drop down to the 1 and 2. And it really, what we're here to do is we want to continue to unfold our individualized life process. We're going to build this understanding of where we are, and then moving with that and spiritual principles that we, some of us have already understood. And Joel, this may be your first exposure, so it's okay. You're going to get it along the way. It's very clear.
Buckle up and be ready for the ride.
Yeah, and it will, it's really outlined in the Science of Mind book quite well. And thank you for increasing that a little bit. My eyes are not my youthful eyes of long ago. And the other is to the integration of your own fire, if you will. That what is it? You were called here. And what is it that wants to be out in the world? What's your vision for your life, and the vision as you are looking at building your own healing consciousness? And that's kind of a misnomer, because our consciousness is here. It's like we're in this expansive process. And how does that work out in the reverberation of the world? So it's the integration of your personal vision for a better world, and how that may play. So, it will be certainly talked about in your student materials, and as soon as you can to download the material, I encourage you to do so and not wait until next week just before class. I only say that because I have a tendency in the past, up until now, to have done that. And I'm sad that I might have missed the awareness that Spirit was knocking and opening. And, I waited till the last minute. I call it living on the edge of time. And I would like, to experience that differently, and each of you to experience it differently, to have the fullness and the richness of what we're really trying to do here. It's coming into contact with your own process, building your understanding, practicing, and having practices, as well as understanding and implementing the spiritual practices in your consciousness and awareness. So that is our twofold purpose. And Bonnie, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Let it be.
All right, then how about the objective of building a healthy a healing consciousness?
We're going to do this in several ways. And we're going to do it in classroom discussion. We're going to do that in our readings, as well as we're going to do that in our meditation. And Bonnie may talk about this a little bit later. What we do with the learning of doing prayer treatment, and we're going to deal with that next week in more detail, is we direct the consciousness. But what we do in meditation is we become receptive to consciousness. And so that is why we have an accompanied book, which we haven't talked about yet, but it's The Power of Meditation, and it's written by Edward Wilhelm. And we're not expecting you to read the entire book. What we've chosen is what are grayed out areas in the book of let's try this and practical applications. And so we're going to ask you to at least devote 5 minutes a day to being receptive to what is Spirit speaking through you. And look at the weekly assignment, see what that does and what is that opening up within you. Notice, as Jack is so fond of saying over and over, and we'll say it repeatedly because I think it's most of the wisest counsel. Notice what you're noticing. Notice if you're resistant to it. Notice if you're, notice everything. It's informing you. And it doesn't have to be negative or positive. Just notice. Keep it in that neutral place of notice what you're noticing, because that openness and that awareness of it, noticing, allows the expansiveness to germinate within you and take you places that, if we're just in that narrowed focus of, I don't like this, this is what's happening, you can have those experiences, notice it, and show up and do the work. Do your reading, do what you need to do. And we're not asking you to digest it all, come back as experts. I don't know about you all, but I was one of those students years ago that perfect. I had to get it all perfect, had to sound good, look good. We're encouraging you not to tackle it that way, but to be in receptivity. So we're going to do some of this, and going back to the objectives is, exploring some current life situations, your beliefs, your viewpoints, and how they relate in principle, and using self-assessment studies that will be unveiled as we're doing the course. Now we're going to deepen our skills and techniques and applying these principles with the tools of meditation and spiritual mind treatment, which for me, I call the props of my life today. If I'm not doing that, I'm a little wobbly, and, I notice it. I notice what's showing up in my life. And we're going to review a little bit of the earlier metaphysical movement and the influences of what is now known as New Thought. And the other is we're going to look at the principle and the experience and the power of tithing and how that plays into our prosperity consciousness. Yes, you paid a fee to be in the class, and you know, many of classes, and I'm not certain that Reverend Jack and Bonnie and I talked about this specifically, but I'll tell you my experience of the tithing. I play this little game when I'm in a class, and it's unexpected income. So when I start today, I will be looking for how unexpected income comes into my life until the end of the course, and anything at the end of the week, that's what I'm going to tithe on. I'm going to take that 10% of whatever it's coming in, and I'm tithing on that unexpected income. Because I can say, oh, I don't have extra money. And when I open it up to unexpected income, somebody, you know, gifts me with a meal, or, you know, something comes up and I get a check in the mail. It's like, wow, I am shocked each time. So we're not asking you to do that. I'm just telling you it's what I've done as a personal practice, and it has always blown me away. So we're going to be talking about that as one of the objectives along the way. And the other is, you know, consciously being able to put into play our personal learning and spiritual growth into this project that we're going to speak about a little bit later is, you know, what's our vision for a better world? And we'll be doing a special project at the end, and it can be anything. And I think it will be more discussed in the material, but this is where you let the creativity, that spiritual principle of creativity, just start in this now moment, and just with that willingness. You don't need to know what that is. You know, you will be guided, and you know, you will know the terrain for that the closer we get to the end of the week. But it'll be a culmination of what you're integrating, and it may be a poem, it could be a song, it could be, you know, something, a reading that really spoke to you. So, and that's just minimal of what you could do. So that's the objectives that we're looking at. And Bonnie,
Yeah.
What would you like to add? We have the screen up from 1 to many.
Right.
I'm turning it over to our master practitioner.
Well, I just want to say that I came into meditation with total resistance. And my nickname most of my life was the Whirling Dervish. So to sit still and listen was impossible. Just even trying to sit still was impossible. And I am so chagrined after all of these years that I look forward to it all the time. And just as Diana shared, it's like learning how to do prayer treatment is learning how to activate the quantum, the energy field. And meditation is learning how to receive it, how to let it come in ways that sometimes are really surprising. Being a whirling dervish, I always wanted to know this. And I would be very surprised in meditation and still continue to be surprised that something will come up. It's like a message. And it's the same thing when you're doing walking meditation outside. I will sometimes be pondering something. And as I walk along pondering and allow myself to be that open, somebody across the street will answer it. It's just that succinct. So understanding that the universe is always talking to us is a really important part of what you're going to learn.
Thank you, Bonnie. This, what's up on the screen right now from 1 many, is going to be in your class material. And I think it is worth a read. And Sandria, can you see this slide. Would you
Yes.
mind? Would you
Yes.
mind reading it for us?
Sure. From many sources, varying widely in culture and era, comes recognition of the unity of mankind with God and with all life. The quotations below are statements about this unanimity, I guess it is, which is a concept intrinsic to all our SOM studies. When we say there is one course, I'm sorry, did you say something? When we say there is one course back of all, one cause back of all manifest form, one intelligence back of all consciousness, one spirit within all men, we are not denying the reality of created forms or individual experience. We are affirming the unity of all life, the unity which includes all variety. Unity passes into variety and multiplicity without division. In each creation, life brings its whole nature to bear upon that individual expression. Thus, every man's life not only has God, but all of God back of, within, and through him. The significance of this we but dimly perceive, yet by some interior awareness which all people possess, we sense the divine presence and know that we are a part of it. It would be impossible to converse with each other unless there were a common medium, or, as Emerson said, one mind common to all individual men. It is impossible to depart from this divine presence, to be separated from this heavenly Father, which is the parent mind. Since God is everywhere, wherever we are, God is.
Mm.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
And let that just sit with you for a moment. It is the basis of where we are individualizing this presence and building a healing consciousness that not only is reverberating in our own lives, but into the world. That's part of this visioning process of understanding truly God is, we are, all is one, well. And, you know, for those of us that have maybe some background of years ago, and when I first got into 12-step work, I love to refer to the acronym of God as good, orderly direction. And that encompasses far more than the dogma that many of us may have been peppered with throughout our lives. But, you know, today I can refer to that presence as God, but it took, you know, and when I can be feeling that old presence, I will remember it's good, orderly direction. That's what I'm wanting. And this is what's happening right here, right now. And that we're not separated from that. And neither is any of creation. And as I'm speaking to this, I'm aware that, you know, and I'm also going to bring this into the forefront, is that, you know, many of us have been around these principles and practices for a long time. And because we have Joel with us now, we are speaking as we are brand new, and that we speak from and be inclusive to Joel, as well as the one that's been here the longest. Because what we all share in common is this moment, today. It's fresh, it's new, and I'm inviting you to bring that with you each and every time we come to class, each and every time you open the book. And from a place of allowing the download of what's already in the soup to dense down into the consciousness here, so that this place here has the understanding. And I call it the matching up of the mind of God and the heart of God. And so we have a question for you. And Bonnie, I don't know if you would like to put this in the mix now, if it's,
Yeah, let's do it now, if you will.
That's a good time. There's actually two questions. I
yes.
want you to ponder. I'm going to give the first question and let you just think about it for a minute. And then I'll do the second question. And then as we feel moved to share what that means. So the first question is, do you believe the universe is in your favor?
So I'm going to repeat that. Do you believe the universe is in your favor?
And the second question is, do you believe you are seeking God, or do you believe you're in God?
Do you believe you are seeking God, or do you believe you are in God? You might want to just write down whatever thoughts that are coming to your mind, first impressions, a little note to yourself, don't judge it. And as I say, notice what you notice. So Bonnie?
So who would like to share what thoughts came up?
Okay. So I have a signature line at the end of my vision statement, which I read every single day. And also in my signature line in my emails, I have it's kind of a paraphrasing of a Rumi quote, which is, I live life as if everything is rigged in my favor. So the answer to the first question is absolutely. The universe is conspiring to give me what I want, what I ask for. I just need to be sure that I'm asking the right questions, or the questions that are right is the wrong. That I am asking questions that are high frequency questions, and that it's more like, what is mine to do? So I feel that I am definitely in God, and that what I'm doing is consistently opening to that sense of God is within me. So my work that
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What happens when things go awry? What do you think then?
I check my thinking. I check to see how I am feeling about me, and what my conversation is, or even try to bring forth my subconscious conversation about me. And when things are not going the way that I want, I will sit back and just be still and meditate on that.
And I think that and that's a good thing to bridge over to the understanding that sometimes that internal level is what's so important. And that's really the basis of what we're teaching, is that things are going to happen in the world. And the question is, how are we going to notice it? How are we going to perceive it? Because the truth is, our most important work is self-love. And very often when things go awry, we are in some kind of kerfuffle about, what did we do wrong? How come this is happening to me? And we have to reach that state of self-love, so that instead of it being, oh, this is so terrible, it's just the most awful place, that we can get to the point where we can say, I can't wait to see the good that's going to come from this. Someone else. Do you
Jesus.
believe the universe is for you?
Joel.
Yeah, I'll jump into the fray. It's interesting, and in answering those questions, I was realizing, there's a gap in that in my understanding there. But in answer to the first question, do I believe the universe is in my favor? For me personally, in my experience right now, I would say no. And the reason why I would say no is throughout my life, I've always felt like I can dream bigger than what seems to occur for me. I feel like, I don't know if any folks are familiar with the movie Amadeus about Wolfgang Mozart. Kind of his nemesis, Salieri, Antonio Salieri, who was in some ways a character that was able to appreciate the genius that Mozart brought to the world. And he also felt very defeated in that he couldn't produce anything close to what Mozart could produce. And so sometimes I feel like that. I feel like I can behold a vision that is massive and beautiful, and yet to have the tools, or at least to know how to even get there, is beyond me.
Oh, up until now. Up until
Well, that's part of the reason
that's
why I'm
why
in this
you're
call.
here. That's why you're here. This is
Yeah, well, when I had said that there was these vestiges and voices from the past, is like, and why I had felt, as I toyed with the word jaded, is because I'd felt compelled to make movements to fulfilling that dream, but then not finding the affirmation, feedback that would encourage me, or at least I felt would encourage me to go forward.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, so here's where the disconnect is that do I feel that I'm seeking God or I'm in God? I do feel that I'm in God. However, it's like, am I Salieri?
Yeah.
Am I just the part that can behold the grandeur of the vision, that can never, really own for myself what that experience and that beauty is?
So I have a quick story for you. Chinese farmer, and he had a farm, and his neighbor saying, "Oh, it's so sad you only have one horse. How can you do all the work that needs to be done?" And that night the horse ran away. And the farmer, they came, they said to the farmer, "Oh, this is terrible. Now you have no horse." And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, and maybe no." Because the next day the horse came back with a whole bunch of other horses. And the rest of the farmer's friends said, "Oh, this is fantastic. This is really wonderful." And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Because the next day his son was so excited about the horses, he got up on one and he fell and broke his leg. And his neighbor said, "Oh, this is so awful. You're not going to have your son to help you." And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." And the next day the king came and was conscripting soldiers and was unable to take the son because he had a broken leg. The point being is our perception is always being guided sometimes by others that tell us this is how it should be or not. Or do we understand that often calamity is the beginning of a new cycle? Do we understand that change comes and makes it so that things get made all new? And are we willing to be in a place of perception? Maybe yes, maybe no.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Someone else.
Well, in terms of the first question, I believe that the universe is in my favor. When there are times that I'm not feeling that, I have to look at what my thoughts are, because maybe my God isn't big enough at that moment.
Great answer. Great answer, Betty, because that is such the key. That's such the key, and it's really the second question that's posing up in what your response was. Because if you believe that you're in God, let me put it another way. There's only one activity of God, this life of God that absolutely permeates everything, everything. There is no place where this is not happening. It is simply giving itself to itself and receiving itself from itself. So if you're in God, you're in that divine activity. It's just like your breath. Your breath comes in, it nourishes every part of you. You exhale, it gets rid of what doesn't serve. And what doesn't serve goes to the greenery and serves it, infinitely, infinitely. So God is simply the life force that is giving itself to itself. And if you're in God, that's what's happening in you. So the concerns that we have are just those places where we get to grow in understanding. Because very often, I know for myself, I had a stroke 2 years ago. And since my nickname was the Whirling Dervish, you can only imagine what it was like to no longer be working, to be at home, to be more impaired. I'm living the life that I imagined all of my life. I say to myself, I wonder what I'm going to do with these 1,000 books that I have in my bookcase, right? I wonder what I'm going to do with all that paint and pastel and all those art supplies. You know, I'm living the life. And the stroke was the vehicle. Yay! Someone else. Now I'm going to say, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
I'm going to say that if somebody doesn't tell me that this is all hooey, I'm going to be disappointed in you folks.
Didn't hear that. If somebody doesn't tell her what.
Well, I know it's hooey, but the hooey does work. So that's, you can call it anything you want to, call it hooey, but it does work. Do I believe the universe is in my favor? Absolutely, because I had an experience a long time ago where this minister held church in his house, and I was invited to go, and he did readings on people, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I may have told this to Avery and you guys, I'm saying, I wish he would read to me from God. And he turned on his heels and he came up to me, and the heat made me recoil. I mean, I'm like moving back like this, because the heat was not him, but the Holy Presence and the Holy Spirit was in him, and I felt it. I felt it with such an intensity and such, and he talked about me being in my prime, in the prime of my life in terms of just being alive. And he stroked my cheek, and I knew it wasn't him. I knew that I knew. And from that time on, I often taste on that when I'm wavering, that I know there is a presence. I know, absolutely know, because I experienced it that day, that there is an energy and a presence, and it operates around me. And when in answer to the second question, and all I could do was recoil and cry. That's all I could do was cry because it was so intense. It was so on me. And then I asked him after it was over, and he slumped in a chair. And he turned and slumped in the chair, and he said he didn't know anything about what I said, what he had said. And then I understood that for God to show up with that intensity, he could have killed him in an instant if he'd stayed too much longer, if that presence, forgive me for saying he, I just used to saying hey. If that presence had stayed in that physical body to that intensity, I think it would have killed him in a short period of time because he was totally exhausted and he didn't have any awareness of what had gone on. So I know that there's a God. It was shown to me, and it was just a special day. For the second part of the question, I think that I am seeking not necessarily God, but the intensity within me to feel that, to really, I keep thinking embody what I know in my head is there inside of me, but to really embody it. So when that small voice comes up and it talks to me all the time, it gets so loud, sometimes I have to obey it. Sometimes I don't want to, but I have to obey it sometimes. And I want to also have the emotional connection with that as well. I know it's there.
Right.
So
what's so beautiful about what you're expressing is how wonderfully this life of God pours into us and gives us the opportunity to love ourselves. Because the more we love ourselves, the more we're able to see that it is a loving presence that's always there, and it's a power, and it can be used. And this, you're going to enjoy the first 4 chapters of the text because it's all about just exactly what Sandria just described. It's about what is this thing? How do we use it? How does it work? Because it does. It works. And the thing that is the mystery, for me, it was the mystery was I thought it was something over there. If I have 1,000 books, that probably tells you one of my addictions, right? But a good deal of that was trying to find it. Ponder this. The mind that created this text is the mind that you are using.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
For me, as far as the first question, back in 2009, I had worked for 25 years in finance and I lost my job. That was when the economic downturn hit and everybody was losing their jobs and I lost mine. I had gone away that summer to become a yoga instructor, but when I came back, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was taking a yoga class and I had there was a instructor, his name was Alan Finger. And he also did meditation right after the yoga class. And the meditation, he would talk you through it. So you sat there and you took it all in and it was amazing. But he sent something to me. And when I walked out of the class, he said to me, "What's the matter?" I said, it's easy for me to say nothing because that's always what I say. I always say there's nothing wrong. And then he sat me down, everybody was leaving and he sat me down. He said, he said, something's the matter. And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "You seem like you have the world on your shoulders. You seem like you seem kind of sad. You didn't seem this way a couple of months ago." And we sat down and we talked about it. I said, "I lost my job and I have no idea what I'm going to do." So he sat there with me. He said, "What are you worried about?" I said, "I'm worried about making a living." And he said to me, "I don't think you should worry about that because everything you need, you'll have. Everything that you feel you need, you'll have, whether you have a job or not." And what he was speaking to was that if you put out there to the universe what it is that you want and what you need, as long as it's like going into Google and putting in the exact words to get what you want. It was that. It was exactly that. And he was right. I mean, there's a lot of things that did go wrong, but everything that I needed, I had. I didn't have anything to really worry about. But it was just trusting and knowing that it can happen. It will happen. And I think what happens to with a lot of people, what happens is they just worry, and all they do is worry. And when they don't get what and because they're worrying so much, they don't see the other side of it. They can't see that there's something.
Yes, maybe no, right?
Yeah.
Maybe yes, maybe no. It's the individuation, and it's the beauty of our individuation, because the life of God that is imbued in our very, very center of self is not a dictator. It's not a dictator. It is a truth finder, a truth seeker. So I love you summed it up very well, Avery, is that it's so much about trust. And trust comes when you love yourself. When you love yourself beyond all those doubts, all those places of, ain't it awful? There is a place where you begin to understand, maybe so, maybe not. Each experience brings with it a whole new level of consciousness. And that's what we're here to study. We're to study that the fullness of faith is that there's nothing but good. The fullness of faith is that there's nothing but good. And everyone gets to use it in different ways. And we can do that, the ancient awful, we're in the middle of ancient awful in our dynamics in the world. But what does that tell us? It tells us we're about to see a big, huge, amazing, wonderful change.
Mm-hmm.
We're about to see it. And it's already, the edges of it is already showing. I speak of it today with the kids from Oakland Tech are out on strike because they're saying Oakland Unified needs to make sure that the schools are safe from COVID. They need to clean the building. Wow. So all I'm saying is maybe yes, maybe no. As we go through this, let yourself not try to what I call the bullshit story of all of this. Because there's plenty of people who are going to tell you, if you do this, everything's going to be grand. If you do this, it's going to be the most fabulous ever. We're all going to experience the ups and downs. We're not going to deny when things aren't going so well, but we can look at it and then understand that things are changing.
Mm-hmm.
Things are changing, and we can be open to see that change, to be a part of that change. And this class is going to be about developing that kind of consciousness. Has everybody shared, Jack?
I think so. And I was just going to, thank you for that. And I want to put a little bow around it, if you will, take a little privilege as the minister here, and then turn it back over to Diana for the homework,
Right.
because maybe yes, maybe no, you'll do it. But that opportunity to know what I loved about the question, do you believe the universe is for you? What I know in my own experience, whenever I have a doubt or think that I'm seeing an example of when the universe is not conspiring for my good, it's because I have separated myself from God.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I want to look at the dark side, if I want to put that focus on where I believe where I recognize that I've been separated, I know that in this teaching, there is this phrase that we often use is where you put your focus expands.
Right.
And so if we have this thought that the world is against me, it's going to hell in a handbasket. One of the great ways to get back on top of your process and to take dominion over your life once again is to think of Bonnie's story. Maybe yes, maybe no. But just by saying maybe yes or maybe no, you see the affirmative.
Yeah.
You entertain the positive. You can make the connection again
You
with
get
it.
to choose how to see it.
And that's the gift in it.
Right.
It's like, oh, I've forgotten. I've allowed myself to separate. And if I dwell here. Now, one of the things that I want to encourage, and I worked with someone online with this today, they were shattered because a spiritual teacher had said to them, stop coddling your feelings, buck up and move on and see the positive. Well, I was able to show them that communication served them because it got them to me to have a different conversation. But it's like, I think in our life, we have to remember to honor our feelings.
Yes.
And to feel what it is that we're feeling.
Right.
In order to notice what we notice and, okay, why is this coming up for me? Ooh, why is this making me feel so anxious? Why is this taking my breath away? If you bypass that experience, you don't get to heal that experience.
Right.
And our intentions for coming together is to heal. Building a healing consciousness requires healing. There's some stuff that comes up. And there may be stuff that will come up over these next weeks that you thought, oh, I healed that. I healed that back in 1987. It was a Thursday night. I remember specific, and here it is again.
Yes. And that
Yes.
that healing place, and you're right in the vortex. That
Yes.
healing place is where we love ourselves so much that we embrace those feelings, that we bring them in and do what I call intimacy. Into me, I see. In other words, that separation feeling, that place where we have ideated that there's a separation. It's like bringing our shadow sides in and loving it, and loving ourselves to the point where it's healed. It's healed. So it's not mumbo jumbo. It's not mumbo jumbo, but it is work. And the important part of those two questions is to understand that those are the two questions that we are all, every single one of us, are dealing with all the time.
I'm reminded of, for our dancers in the room, I remember that song I learned when I was little. You put your left foot in and you take your left foot out. You put your, you turn all about or whatever it is. You really get into that process. Thank you, Bonnie. Diana, take us home.
Okay, sorry.
And you'll have to go off mute to do that.
Yes. Thank you, Bonnie. Your passion for all of this, I'm walking away with, love, again, is the password. Not only the password to get into the Building a Healing Conscious course, it's the password. It is that self-love, allowing the big love to come within. Well, we're coming to the close, and what we want to do is cover some stuff before we pop off and send you on your way. Now, in your course curriculum, it will refer to a different meditation book. Now, I've sent Reverend Jack a revised, and I've got on the top of it, the Healing Consciousness Calendar and Reading Schedule. I'm suspecting he will post that in Slack so that you'll have it. So it's, for me, I need to know how to pace myself. So for next week, we're going to have you read chapters 1 through 4 in the Science of Mind textbook. And then there's also an additional reading in that textbook, and it's pages 266 to 278. So it really is chapters 1 through 4, which is page 1 to 93, and then pages 266 to 278. Now,
Does page 266 have a heading in
Yeah,
case?
thank you.
yeah, I'll have to look at it. I don't have it down as that. 266. I do believe it does, and
Yes, it does.
right here it is. It is the principles of successful living. So it's chapter 16.
Chapter 16, that's the way that, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
whatever then printing that you have,
Right.
you'll be able to do it.
And I'll actually try to put that, I'll send you a revised version, Jack, so that it
Okay.
has the chapters in there. So then you know how to pace yourself of how to do that. And don't look at it as a lot of work or a lot of reading. Look at it as you're going to bring back per chapter and per reading something that stepped up to you individually. And we're going to share that. And then with that, we're all going to get the collective wisdom that each of us walked away with. It would be very odd that it would be the same thing that speaks to your heart that speaks to Avery's heart. So we're going to bring something from each chapter that just spoke out to you. It could be a line, it could be a concept, whatever that is for you. Come share it with us. And then in the Power of Meditation book, we are going to be reading pages 34 and 35, which I'm going to turn to since many of you don't have the book. And it's something that says, try this. And so it's the first attempt. Using something like a smartphone, a bedside clock, or a kitchen timer, set a device to let you know when 10 minutes have passed. Before you start the countdown, turn off all other sound makers in your home, TV, etc. Then begin. Sit. Choose a comfortable place to sit that supports good posture, and it goes on. And then at the end of that, they'll tell you keys. And the keys for next week's reading is surrender the ideas of getting somewhere with meditation. And 2, be willing to practice sitting quietly every day. So we're inviting you to do between 5 and 10 minutes and let yourself just sit. But the other thing that we brought in from another class that was very powerful, we used to do it when we were in person, is create an altar. And that is a sacred place in which you sit, or that is something that reflects that presence for you. And it can be anything. And I was remiss, and Jack is pointing back to his, and he's got Kuan Yin and just some things. On my altar, I have a little tea candle, I have a little Buddha, and each week we're asking you, build your altar, what's calling you that week to bring forward and have that sacred place. That's not a have to, that's a suggestion, to have an altar that you have that special place with. And the other thing is, we talked a little bit about the class agreement and confidentiality, and that's the attendance. For those of you that are taking the class for credit, 2 absences, please notify one of us, max, and there's makeup ability, but we need to know that. So communicate prior to class, because we're holding this space for you, but we want to know if something's come up. And that, of course, as Jack said earlier, confidentiality, what happens here stays here. And I know that some of you know each other outside of the rooms, and just for the sake of confidentiality, we keep it within the room. Read your class for 1 and read ahead into 2. because next week we're going to be working with the spiritual mind treatment. That's going to be part of the lesson, so that you understand that directing the consciousness by a certain formula that we've used, that, and I don't like to use the word formula, but it's a prescribed set of ways of doing it, so that, you know, you are you're tapping into it less cumbersome. So we'll be covering that. Now, I know we had a slide for that, but we're a little bit out of time. So we cover that in more detail.
That slide will also be posted.
Yes.
And the little piggyback that I want to add, especially for the dancers in the room, I love to think of the steps of the affirmative prayer and the mind treatment as like those basic steps to a dance.
Yes.
You know, if you go to any audition, they'll say, I'm going to make this up, but do a shuffle ball change. Oh, every dancer in the world knows what a shuffle ball change is. And so it doesn't matter what the music is, the formula and the steps are there.
Yes. Perfect. Is there anything else?
I have a question. I'm not clear. The 266 to 278 is in what book?
That's in the Science of Mind book. It too.
And the one to chapters 1 to 4, and then 266 to 278 is additional.
Which is also chapter 16.
Yeah.
Is chapter, okay, 1 to 4 and chapter 16.
Yeah.
Then in the meditation book, did you give pages for that?
Yes,
34 and 35.
34 and 35. Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll scan those 2 pages and get them up on Slack, so that if you don't have the book yet, you'll have those 2 pages.
Okay. Anything else that I have neglected to address?
How is world peace possible?
Out of time.
Well, you asked the question.
We're out of time.
In relationship to the class.
Right, okay.
Although that is a great question. That is a great question to take out into, you know, what's next for us? What's the vision you have for yourself and the world in building a healing consciousness? It could be world peace for you. So we'll spend a bit of time more about the projects. I don't really want to, there's enough on our plate, our platters, our large platters. Do the best that you can. Put your best foot forward. This is not about perfection. It's about what is Spirit calling to you. Notice what you're noticing and allow yourself to be a receptacle of what wants to come through you, for you, as you, with you.
Thank you, Diana. Bonnie, help me to remember what we discussed. Folks are going to volunteer to do the invocation, and the practitioners will do the benediction, or was it the other way around?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, good. So here's the deal then. We'll be asking, I want to offer it this way, Avery and Sandrea and Joel and Jamie, when she joins us, to do the invocation to get us going. And then Betty, Janis, Diana, Bonnie, or I will do the benediction at the end of the evening as we go forward. So I'm not going to assign anyone to do the invocation for next week. Just kind of be with it this week and see if the Spirit nudges you and says, come on, I can do this, and we'll go from there. But for our purposes tonight, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up and playing. Show some love to all the pictured people in the Hollywood squares and kind of wave at them and get that good energy going. And then Betty, will you bless us by praying us out?
I'd love to. So right here, right now, we are breathing the breath of God is breathing us.
Yes, yes.
And we are so blessed. I feel just marvelous to have shared with each of you tonight. I know that we are blessed and loved beyond measure. And I am so grateful for each of you and for your gifts. They are coming out tonight. And so I give thanks for this. I release it into the law and love, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Thank you, everyone.
Next week.
Thank you, Joel. I will say goodbye to you. We'll say goodbye. I'm going to ask Diana and Bonnie if they'll stay on. And then the rest of you, we love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next week.
Okay, so what's our schedule now? Dinner? It's 10 to 8. Well, I had dinner. I think you did. Oh, okay. I don't really want anything, but I want to see.
Betty, you're not really off yet,
Oh, I'm sorry.
unless we're all coming over for dinner. I mean, it's, you know.
I had dinner earlier too.
Okay.
Well, guess Betty's going to be on.
Yeah, I'm going to try to close her out. But I can't get this other little screen to go away here.
Probably can mute her, right?
But I've got a funny little goofy screen up that won't go away for me to even be able to do that.
Oh.